Hello, First Christian Church. Today we have the privilege of talking with David Shearin at Street Life Ministries. We've been partnering with Street Life since 2018, and he's just going to give us a little history and update on what's going on. So, David, why don't you share a little bit about your journey with Street Life, and we'll start there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much first off, thank you, First Christian Church, for your continued support and prayers and financial support, and also allowing us to have our Palo Alto location on your campus every Monday night, which has been awesome. But myself personally, I came to Street Life Ministries 13 years ago from an AA meeting, and wasn't really looking for much other than just to serve a hot meal. And next thing I know, I'm being pulled in through God, and here I am. I'm leading the ministry, and we have three separate locations. So we have Redwood City, which is Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday nights. We have the Menlo Park train station, where we actually started from 21 years ago. And that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then since 2018, we have the Palo Alto site on Monday nights at your guys' church, at First Christian Church. And what we basically do is we're not like an ordinary soup kitchen that just serves a hot meal. We're kind of like we're a soup kitchen wrapped with like a Sunday service. So we have worship. We have a clothing van and a clothing closet where we do sleeping bags, backpacks, socks, underwear, you name it, whatever clothing items that we can get a hold of. We've got tents and all sorts of toiletry kits and supplies. And then we have every location will have worship and a message from a rotating speaker, pastor, followed by a really good, scrumptious hot meal. We're kind of known for our hot meal. Our food is by far outstanding. Every location has they always just outdo themselves when it comes to feeding our folks with a really good, hot, nutritious meal. It's been outstanding, the food that comes through our ministry. But if it wasn't for the meal, I mean, I'll be honest with you, that the folks that know about the hot meal, that's what actually brings them kind of to the ministry just to begin with. And then we're hoping that they hear something from our messages, which they usually do. They come and they start coming a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier, and then they want to hear the worship, they want to hear the message. And one thing that all three locations are really good at is we have church volunteers that show up early as well, and they just gain trust with our folks on the street by starting a healthy conversation, just kind of like who you are, what do you, just to get to know each other. And I've noticed in Palo Alto the last year or so, that's really been taking place a lot more. We've been very fortunate to have some volunteers from some other local churches that have come, and some of the young adults are coming earlier and kind of hanging out and having these really amazing conversations with our folks and having dinner with them. And so from that, the site's actually starting to grow. We were about 10 or 11 people for quite a long time. And now we're averaging anywhere between 17 to 22 every Monday night, which has been awesome to see it grow. So, yeah.
Very good. So what kind of impact has Palo Alto First Christian Church had on the community just by having this site here specifically in Palo Alto?
Yeah. So there's no real dinner service within Palo Alto. There's a couple churches that serve, I think, sporadically through the week. They'll serve a meal. And unfortunately, and I'm not going to try to bag on any of the churches that are serving the meals, but they don't have, they have no message. They're not doing any worship. And for the most part, the folks are coming and they're serving the meal and they're saying, here's your food, and okay, bye. And the impact that we've had is that, like I was just saying a minute ago, that friendly atmosphere, that conversation, the worship music, the message, our folks are coming, and just like all the other sites, people are coming and they don't want to leave. they're enjoying their conversation, they're enjoying their meal, and they're hanging out. And I think that what's happening with the impact with our folks is that for the first time, a lot of our homeless community feel appreciated, they feel respected, they feel loved. And what's happened is our folks have been able to speak into their lives better, and just really kind of pinpoint some, maybe some tough questions about hygiene, about living situation and drug use or alcohol use, where you wouldn't be able to do that just off the top. If you did that off the top, you'd be offensive and they wouldn't come back. And because our folks are building that relationship, they're actually just kind of organically able to have that conversation. And so then with that, they're asking questions back, like, well, what do I do? And how do I get this help? And so then we're starting to cultivate a change. So folks are actually asking about recovery, and they're asking about Christ. We've had a couple people over the last couple of years that have come that were a little bit hostile to the word. And now they're sitting and they're listening to it. They still ask some colorful questions, but it's not hostile anymore. It's more of a banter back and forth, which makes me think that they're thinking. It's actually processing in their heart, and that's a huge impact. And I don't see that in many other locations that I go to.
And do you have like a recent success story that you can share?
And we've had a couple people who've come who are now, so we've partnered with an organization through a Peninsula Bible Church that has a place called Our Brother's Home. And it's a faith-based recovery home, but it's not a 12-step recovery program. It's more of a home for folks that are already in recovery, but it's very low rent. And they have Bible study, they have fellowship, they have group meetings, and then they all go to church on Sunday together. They all worship together. So we've had a couple of our folks that were homeless, they're now not homeless, and they're living in their house right now, which has been really cool for them.
Yeah, we talked before. I mean, it's a long haul. I mean, transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of building up trust.
I think the biggest frustration for a lot of people that come to Street Life, because like you said, we've been there since 2018, and I think the frustration we get from some of our folks that come from like a church aspect, who have a home and they have a job and stuff like that, and they see the same faces coming, and it's such a slow wheel of turning, and they get frustrated, like, why is this person still smell like urine? Why is this person still using drugs? Why is this person? And yeah, you got it, Scott. It's you know what, sometimes the light bulb goes on almost instantly, and sometimes it could be 6-7 years before that person's, and it's frustrating. Trust me, I get it. And we have folks that they get it right away, and then within months they're right back out, and so it's not I wish there was an easy cookie cutter solution to what we're doing, but there's just not. We've tried, Scott, we've tried for years to try to find different ways to make this, try to rubber stamp this to make this work. And there's just no real formula to it.
What I tell people is our ultimate goal, Street Life's ultimate goal, is to get people off the street and housed and healthy, right?
Yes.
But if all they get is Jesus and never got off the street, that's really the ultimate goal, which the other food places are not doing, right?
Sure.
They're just feeding, they're not giving them the hope of Jesus.
Right.
I mean, they're exempling Jesus's servanthood, but having a Street Life as a church for those that live on the street is very crucial.
It's interesting you said that, because would love to hear your thought on this as well, and maybe even for the church to think about when they see this video is, and I get pushback from some pastors. I also get pushback from some people that are a little bit more on the legalistic side of things with the Bible. But just on what you just said, I have folks that come to the ministry that are constantly living in a sinful lifestyle, sexual sin, drug addiction, lying, stealing, and they're homeless. and they're just constantly repeating it over and over and over again, which is obviously the definition of insanity, because they always want it to change. But then at the same time, they're coming to me saying, hey, I talk to Jesus every night. I'm praying. I have a relationship with him, but I'm stuck. Now, it's not I know what the Bible says. Okay. And trust me, I believe that every word in the Bible is true. I don't question the Bible in that way. But the thing is I don't know what our personal relationship with Jesus Christ looks like. I mean, there's all of us who could be, showered and shaved and shiny, and we live in our homes and we do all the right things. But do we really have a personal relationship with Jesus? I mean, you got a guy over here who's not so shiny and clean, and he says he's talking to Jesus every day. And I just really, I don't know what's going to happen when that guy or that woman dies. But my hope is that even while they're struggling in their sin, they're having a conversation with Jesus, which tells me they know who Jesus is, which the Bible says that if you have a relationship with me, I know you. He knows our struggles. So my thought is, man, like you just said, you might not get housed, you might not get clean and sober, but if all we can do is get you a relationship with Jesus, I mean, that's a huge success. And I think, ultimately, those are the success stories, Scott, that you and I are not going to see until the day we walk through to the gates ourselves. And we're going to be going, wait a minute, you made it?
Yeah, well, I say that a lot too, because people think, well, they don't know Jesus. And I said, no, those that live on the street, they probably know Jesus a lot better than most of us.
Right. Yeah, we got a lot more time to have a conversation with Jesus. Trust me.
Right. They may show up to street life, intoxicated, but they're singing the worship songs intoxicated, right? So
yes, yeah, absolutely, 100%. I totally agree.
So I mean, on my side, I'm more concerned about salvation. Of course, yes. We want them to have healthy salvation and transformation, and we know that that's them living a life off the street. But that salvation has to happen regardless. So what is some things that First Christian Church can pray about for Street Life Ministries?
Yeah. Well, obviously, first and foremost, always is finances. We're trying to grow and trying to expand and be able to hire more people. We're trying to actually start an outreach team that we would hire part-time and full-time employees that will actually be able to go out into the campsites and start doing, sharing the word of God, obviously, but also doing some data research, names, drug of choice, biblical history, or any, or no biblical history, and then start working on helping them get placed in the right care, whether it be mental health, drug rehab, or if it's a female, there's a lot more females out on the streets today than there used to be. When I first started serving at Street Life about 13 years ago, I'd say there was one female for every 10 homeless guys. And I'd say now it's probably about 3 females per 10 3 female homeless women per 10 homeless men. And it's going up, unfortunately. And it's really sad. And a lot of that stems from domestic violence. And let's face it, a lot of our folks have got very unhealthy upbringing in their home lives, and it just plays out in their adult life. So to pray for them, to pray for just the spiritual darkness that's within the street. There's a lot of ugliness that goes on the streets with sexual assaults and just the mental illness and just the stuff that they battle with on a day-to-day basis. I always hear people tell me all the time, like, oh, homeless people choose to be homeless. And, I would say the percentage of people that choose to be homeless is probably less than 1%. They might tell you, hey, I'm freer homeless than I am paying taxes and rent and this and that. But that's just a mechanism to make them kind of feel better about their current situation. They don't deep down and say they don't want to be homeless. They're scared of what it looks like to try to get off the street. And then the big one is that we are right now in the beginning stages of putting together a 12-month male recovery program that'll be all biblical based. It will be, we won't take any state or federal government money. We're not going to use any Medi-Cal. It's going to be all privately funded. That way we can continue to share the word of Jesus Christ and not have to be spiritual. So it's gonna take a lot of money. It's gonna take a lot of resources. We're looking to try to bring on as many volunteers as possible, school teachers, anybody who's diverse in the medical field, mental health area, specifically anybody in your church that's worked with sexual assault for men. I don't know if people know this, but 85% of all men that are on the street have been sexually assaulted from little kids all the way to adulthood. So they carry that baggage with them. We're going to need people that are good at anger management, teaching our folks job skills, job training, how to deal, in the work environment. A lot of our folks haven't worked for over 10 years. So it's going to be a huge transformation for them. Any financial coaches that want to help us teach our folks how to balance a checkbook and save money and all that stuff. So yeah, we need it all. So anything that your church has in your congregation, anybody who sees this video that says, hey, I know somebody that could give a couple hours a month towards a class, please let me know. We definitely need that. That's, really the volunteer stuff is more weight than the finances. We always are going to need finances. That's something that's never going to change. The more we want to grow, of course, we're going to need finances. But people who have a really good heart for Jesus and they want to serve, our man that's just struggling and wants to get back and going, and maybe even like a mentorship program where you are able to take maybe 3 or 4 people on at a time and you kind of are personally mentoring them. Because our goal is to graduate our folks from the program and not relapse. We want to get a solid statistic showing that if we bring 10 or 20 men into the program, that 5 years from now, at least 90% of that graduate are still clean and sober. They're still on fire for Jesus. They're back in the workforce, whatever that may be, whether it be ministry or working janitor, or driving a truck, working in a restaurant, whatever it may be, but they're not on the system. They're not collecting a check or anything. They're just working and thriving in their church, wherever it may be. Because we're going to also, we want to try to start a relocation program where some of our folks that are homeless, they were raised maybe somewhere else in the country. And if they want to relocate back at home, we want to start partnering with those churches and see what it looks like to relocate them back into a healthy church environment. So somebody will catch them and continue the mentoringship and make sure that they stay focused on church and AA meetings and all that stuff.
Very good. And we have the winter months coming up.
Yes.
What are some of the main items or help that's needed for that?
Yeah. So I don't know if your church is able to do this. I was talked to Mark and Heather the other day, but I don't think I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. Anyway, it'd be great if we could do a sock, glove, and hat barrel at your church. And then our guy that comes, Victor and Tyler, who come on Monday nights, they could just pick that up every Monday. But we'd love to do a hat and glove and sock drive, if that's possible, with you guys. And for those who like to knit, for those who like to make crochet hats and stuff, those are actually those are warmer than the store-bought. So anybody who does that, I do not have that skill, but if anybody in the church has that skill, those are phenomenal. We love those ones. And if you do get the store-bought ones, the thing that we ask for is if you can get them where they can roll up, but they can be pulled down at night. So because if our folks are outside, if they can be pulled down over their ears and the back of their neck, those are great. If you want to get scarves are really awesome. So they can wrap them underneath their coat, because it's the winter nights are cold. I don't know if how many of you guys realize that at night, like around 1, 2, 3 in the morning, it gets pretty cold. The atmosphere kind of changes in that time frame and pulls a lot of the extra heat off the earth, and it gets pretty cold for our folks. So yeah, that'd be great if we could do something like that.
Beautiful. Well, we're just gonna wrap it up here. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the beginning, just to kind of bookend it. Thank you to First Christian Church for trusting in us. And I know Scott and Pastor Dan and in the beginning of in 2018, you guys put a lot of faith and trust in us, and glad that we're able to keep continuing to do this. I know Scott and I had many conversations when we were kind of frustrated, like why can't we get more than 3 people to show up? And then it was more than 5, then now it's 20. So it's a beautiful thing. And I want First Christian Church to know that the word is on the street that this is a great place to be. And our folks are now starting to naturally show up. And thank you for giving us a continual home for our folks to be every Monday night. It's been a beautiful thing. And yeah, it's like you said, it's not a quick fix to get people off the street. Just like we're realizing with that location, it's not a quick, hey, we're here serving a hot meal and expecting 30 people to show up all in one time. It's just been this gradual growth. So thank you for being patient, and also thank you for praying for us and continuing to support us, because it's working and we really appreciate it.